All right, what's going on, everybody? Another day in paradise. Today is Loving's Day, June 12th, 2024. So I kind of wanted to take advantage of today because I know with a lot of people within the mixed race spaces or biracial spaces, however you want to call it, they take this day as a celebration, a day to celebrate. And I kind of want to talk a little bit about that and how it relates to the one drop rule, of course. So yeah, where do I start? So basically, with Loving's Day, most of us are familiar with it, right? Um, the court case Loving versus Virginia, which is a landmark Supreme Court case, which was about interracial marriage and relationships. And the case went all the way up from the started in Virginia, then went to the Supreme Court, and they sided on the favor of Loving, which was the Caucasian man who wanted to marry his or wanted to make his relationship legitimate and legal to his African American partner. So June 12th is a day, and it made interracial relationships legal in every state. But the key thing is to understand is that it did not reinstate the status of mulattoes. That is critically important to understand. So I'm going to let them speak a little bit. I have a short clip I'm going to share. We can let them speak about this. This is real time footage. So let's check. Let me pull this up for you guys. You guys can get this information here. And then, of course, I'll come back on the flip side with some commentary as always. Shout out to all you guys watching, all you guys in the chat and the playback, of course. If you guys appreciate the content, please hit the like button for me. I do appreciate that. Okay, report on Loving case 1967. Let's have a listen.
I think that marrying who you want to is a right that no man should have anything to do with. It's a God-given right, I think.
Mildred Loving married the boy next door, Richard Loving. Richard Loving is a construction worker, Mildred Loving the daughter of a sharecropper. They were born and raised in Caroline County, Virginia, where white and colored people seem unaware of the racial prejudice that exists in much of the country. The Lovings didn't know that it was a crime for a white person to marry a Negro in Virginia. They found out the hard way.
But I didn't realize how bad it was until we got married.
And of course, a lot of this takes place in Virginia. This is the basis of it, where it's obviously the South. So just even my audience, people listen to me from around the world, there's a lot of nuances in the United States of America. I'm not from the South. I'm originally from Southern California, right? The southern point of the continental United States. Actually, the most southern point of the continental United States is like in like Florida, I believe, Miami, if I'm not mistaken, Southern Florida. But I'm from the West Coast, SoCal, Southern California. So every state, like the culture is different depending on which state you're in, the environment, the culture, the geography, the demographics, etc. So the environment I grew up in the 1990s in Southern California, Orange County, it's not the same, as in the late 60s in Virginia. Okay. So that's critically important to understand as well when we kind of analyze this case, that different places around the world, and just not even around the world, but even in your own country, like the demographic makeup and the culture, the political environment, things are very different depending on where you are situated and located at. Just wanted to point that out. And I'll show a map as well. I have a map here where it kind of has a graph or a layout of where the states that kind of banned interracial marriages. I'll share that in a bit as well. Let's check this out.
Full of love themselves, they didn't expect to find hate in others. Their home swarms with children, their own three, as well as neighborhood friends who enjoy the warmth here. Mrs. Loving recalls how the ordeal began one night in 1958.
The night we were arrested, I guess it was about 2 a.m. And I saw this light, and I woke up and it was the policeman standing beside the bed. And he told us to get up, that we was under arrest.
Now, I had a couple people comment before about me stopping the clip. I do stop periodically because that's to protect myself from the copyright infringement that could occur. So I do have to stop periodically and provide some commentary. So just for some clarity for people who put the comments, this is why I tend to stop a lot. But I try to do less of that the best I can. I know a lot of you guys are annoyed by that, but it is what it is. Gotta do my best. And what I want to say is that there actually is a film. There was a film that came out, I believe 2019 or 2016. So not that old, but there is a movie about Loving versus Virginia, or the family, their whole ordeal. There is a movie out. I haven't seen the movie, but there is a movie out. So, definitely going to check it out in the future and could give a reaction, etc. if it's warranted. Just wanted to make that point. Let me continue on. Fair use.
You go ahead and play.
And anyway, they carried us to Bowling Green and locked us up. And in January, they had the trial. And they told us to leave the state for 25 years. But the way I understood it, the lawyer said that we could come back to visit, when we wanted to. So that Easter, we came back and they got us again.
We had been down a few times before that, but at Easter we came down, they found out we was down. They arrested us again.
The Lovings spent 5 years in a Negro ghetto in Washington, D.C., where they suffered the indignities of unemployment.
I wanted to point out something. It's interesting. The commenter, this documentary, I do not know exactly. I can check to see like when, because it says ABC on the screen. It says, and also I wanted to point out that the lady Mildred, the African American woman, Mildred Jeter, she's actually African and Native American descent, right? So she's actually a mixed individual. I don't know the terminology they have for someone who's half Black, half Native American. They do have a term, but she's actually not pure Black, right? She's mixed Native American and Black. And then her husband, of course, Richard Loving, is Caucasian or white. But I'm trying to look at when this documentary was conducted, because the commenter, the narrator, I should say, she's saying Negro. She said a Negro neighborhood, right? Which negro is Black in Spanish. So the English have adopted a lot of words from Spanish, more so from French. Like 40% of the English language is derived from French and Latin influence, right? That's why we have mulatto, which is Spanish, but also Negro. But that term is typically considered outdated. That's why I'm listening to the commentary of the video where the lady is saying the Negro neighborhood or something. Let me rewind it so you guys can hear that, because it's kind of interesting. Now, colloquially, African Americans will call each other Negro, and it's also a slur, right? Basically, African Americans will call other African Americans like a Negro to kind of like, how do I say this, or like to slur them. Like I have a Samuel L. Jackson in Pulp Fiction. I have a soundbite from him. Let me see if I found, where is it at? Right here. Yeah.
Shit, Negro, that's all you had to say.
Right. It's kind of like, and I've heard some other commentary from a guy, light-skinned guy, who said something like, oh, these so-called mulatto Negroes, or he said something like that. But when they use the term Negro, it's kind of like a slur, right? To kind of punk you or position you like as if you're a part of their group or something like that. It's kind of weird. I notice that when people use the term Negroes, it's definitely outdated. It's funny, people talk about mulatto. It's so bad, it's so offensive, but you have people who every day use Negro and nigga is a part of their everyday speech, and nobody says nothing to these characters. That's why I laugh. Like I'm different. I'm not like you people. Okay. I'm mulatto, just letting you know what's cracking. I'm not like you people. But just wanted to say that yeah, listen to this lady what she says, right? Closed captions. She said Negro neighborhood in Washington D.C., right?
Again.
The Loving spent 5 years in a Negro ghetto in Washington, D.C.
5 years in a Negro ghetto in Washington D.C. Report on Loving case 1967. I mean, this could be when this aired, right? ABC, I don't know, 1967, because that was common kind of speech at that time, right? That was their racial classification up Negro for African Americans up until like the 80s, I believe. Right? Let's continue. Fair use.
D.C., where they suffered the indignities of unemployment, loneliness, and uncertainty. When one of the children, unused to city streets, was hit by a car, Mrs. Loving decided to act. She wrote a letter to the then Attorney General of the United States, Robert K.
Cool. I'll continue on, but someone in the chat said Zambo. That's the term. Like someone who's like Black and Native American. They literally have a classification for those individuals called Zambo. That's the actual term. So I appreciate you. Thank you for sharing that, because I forgot. I've read it and saw it somewhere as well. There's so many classifications and terminologies. Sometimes you kind of it's hard to keep up, to be honest with you. And it shouldn't be difficult for us to understand this. This is something I learned this in a kind of geography, anthropology class prior when I was in college, university, but this is something we should all know. But because the one drop rule is so prevalent in society, where it's like, Jesus Christ, like they're going to try to claim octoroons as being Black, or even like I played Sade. I have a lady, Mulatto lady, who's bringing to my attention over on TikTok how a lot of Black people are trying to attack, or excuse me, let me rephrase this, African American women who are trying to attack Caucasian American women, because Caucasian American women are embracing Sade and trying to dress like her, or wear, they love her fashion and style, her elegance. And there's a lot of African American women who are basically weaponizing the one drop rule, using mulattoes as a proxy, as crash test dummies to attack their white massa. And they're doing it right now with Sade over on TikTok. I'm not too involved in that whole discussion, but a mulatto lady earlier today and the other day, yesterday, she was kind of bringing it to my attention. But like I said, I haven't looked into it. There's just so much going on in this world. It's like, I can only stay focused on, a certain amount of things. Got to kind of pick and choose things to give my attention to. But right. Yeah. Because the one drop rule is so prevalent, they will try to literally say, octoroons are Black, and they'll try to claim everyone with a drop Black blood that's Black, and with Blasians and everybody, like you said, Zambo, like the Mildred, the lady in the in this court case, Loving versus Virginia, where she's literally partially Native American, even Rosa Parks as well. But they'll definitely claim your wins when convenient. So let's go right here. We got shout out to you, Northern Lights. Let me make you a moderator, actually, that you're here. I thought about that the other day. Let me give you a wrench here. Shout out to you. You put the wife in Loving versus Virginia was multiracial. She was mixed with Native, white, and African American. Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, clarification. Yeah, and that was brought to my attention as well prior. I knew that because you clearly look at her, it's obvious, right? So yeah, appreciate you for that clarification. Get to the comment here. Dude says, or the commenter puts, he says he's from the South. He said, oh boy, it's way different than the West Coast. But you guys in California do have the most skinhead organizations through the such a liberal state. Yes, we do. Yeah, and I'm from Orange County, which is considered the more so kind of radical conservative county in California, where there is a lot of skinheads. Even I'm from Anaheim, California. There was a point where they called it at one time Clanaheim instead of Anaheim, Clanaheim. Because believe it was around the Racial Integrity Act, that period in the 1920s, where the Ku Klux Klan had a lot of influence and power in Anaheim, my hometown. They had city council, they had the mayor's office, stuff like that. And so they had a lot of influence. They had parades through the city, stuff like that. That's the history of the place I come from. And even so, that's kind of why they endorsed Walt Disney to open up shop in Anaheim, California, because I believe Walt Disney was looking at other areas to open up his theme park. Because remember, Walt Disney is originally from like Kentucky or somewhere. He's from a southern state, but he moved to California, Orange County, Anaheim, and he designated Anaheim to be the place of his theme park. And remember, Walt Disney is a Anglophile, right? Walt Disney envisioned basically a world where there was not any black people. I mean, that's what kind of Disney was represented, that utopia. And there's a whole lot you can get into with all that. You could do your own research on that. And what else is there? Yeah. So, and then in Orange County, they have like Huntington Beach, right? I know. Yeah. So there's a lot of influence of the skinheads and the white supremacists and stuff like that in Orange County, all through the state for sure. But interesting how you've noted that as well. So you've basically done your research for sure. Yeah, you make a good point for sure, Val. Yeah. And a lot of these mulattoes, it's kind of sad too, where it's like their white parent was there taking care of them, feeding them, birthing them, housing them. But then a lot of these mulattoes are ungrateful, okay, and duplicitous in a lot of ways, because they'll grow up and they'll basically turn their back on the white people who cared for them. You think of like a Colin Kaepernick, and there's other people as well, where it's like they'll throw their white parents or their biological or adopted parents under the bus to try to get some brownie points with like pro-blacks, right? And you come to find out a lot of these mulattoes like, hey, wait a second, your black daddy wasn't there helping you out. Your black family wasn't helping you out. It was your white mom. It was your white family helping you out, took care of you, right? Fed you and stuff. But a lot of these mulattoes that, and what it has to do with is this kind of this social influence in society with this one drop rule. This one drop rule has did a huge number to where it's literally destabilized us and made it to where we don't have a level of personhood or a tribe per se. Very complicated subject. I'm just one guy with my opinions. So let me continue on with the message at hand, reporting this court case. Let's get into this.
Kennedy, who in turn passed the letter on to a Virginia lawyer, Bernard Cohen, a member of the Civil Liberties Union.
We have 3 children and cannot afford an attorney. We wrote to the Attorney General. He suggested that we get in touch with you for advice. Please help us if you can. Hope to hear from you real soon. Yours truly, Mr. and Mrs. Richard Loving. And it was that simple letter that got us into this not-so-simple case.
Bernard Cohen could and did help the Lovings. He teamed up with another attorney, Phil Hirschkopf, and at no fee they reopened the Loving case in the Virginia courts, appealing each losing decision until at last the United States Supreme Court heard these arguments.
Arguing protection, we advance the argument that these statutes are slavery statutes. They're meant to keep the Negro people in the badges and bonds of slavery.
And we'll get into it as well. It's like the history, they used as the 14th Amendment. There were a couple clauses in their argument. And that was the due process clause, that the Racial Integrity Act was a violation of their due process, and of their equal protection clause, which was connected with the 14th Amendment. So that's basically how these attorneys with the American Civil Liberties Union won their case with the Supreme Court, but they lost most of their cases within the kind of Virginia judiciary realm, right?
The outrageous civil effects of these statutes are not always apparent right away. For example, if Richard Loving were to die, then Mildred Loving would not be able to collect Social Security benefits as his widow.
What is fundamentally important, though, is we ask the court to decide that a state may not pass a law which proscribes marriage between two consenting, competent adults based on race alone.
The attorneys for the state of Virginia refused to talk with ABC. Bernard Cohen described their arguments.
They seem to say that there was a present-day justification for these laws. That is, that they're interested in the welfare of the children of such marriages.
They said it's a present-day justification for the law because they're interested in the welfare of the children in those marriages. Do you guys believe that they're interested in the welfare of the children? Yeah, like I said, today it's crazy in today's world now, because now you literally have pro-blacks or black supremacists, what I call them, who are literally quoting white supremacists. It's so crazy. Like I saw on TikTok where a pro-black was quoting a guy. What's the guy's name from the South? I forgot his name, but he was like a super hardcore segregationist. Something Wallace, I believe his name. Something Wallace was a huge segregationist, where he was against this whole idea. Yeah, it was governor of Alabama, George Wallace. Yeah, huge segregationist during that civil rights era. And you had a, I saw a fucking pro-black on TikTok quoting that guy. That's how crazy it is today, where you got the Tariq Nasheeds, the Dr. Umars, and all their little ghetto followers, the pro-blacks. They're literally piggybacking and quoting their white supremacist masses, where they're talking about, well, interracial relationships are not good. If the children have to be black identified, if they're not black identified, it's bad for society. Like that's how the Afrocentrics look at it. And you see that the white Eurocentrics, like George Wallace, etc., they're looking at it, well, the interracial marriage is bad because they're looking at for the welfare of the children, but they're not really. They just look at it as more competition, that your children are going to compete with their children in the job market. This is what it is. And but they want to use this claim that they care about the children, because what this guy on TikTok, this pro-black, was talking about being outcasted in society, and he was quoting this radical segregationist George. I couldn't believe it, but it is believable now because of all the data and information I've collected the past 2 years. I get it now that these black supremacists, they work with the white supremacists against mulattoes, right? See, they get together to create mixed kids, but then they're both battling each other. I told you this, guys, on the last stream. They're both battling each other to see, well, who can have access and influence over the mulatto class. And they've been having this battle since, the 60s. And yeah, and the whole thing, the argument the guy was making was that, oh, well, the kids the mulattoes are going to be outcasted in society. But this isn't the 1960s. See, this guy was quoting George Wallace back in the 1960s. And I'm sitting here like, this is 2024. Everywhere I look, there's mulattoes. Like, I'm doing this social media experimentation. It's funny because even earlier today when I was at the gym, and my community gym I got out here, and it's a pretty affluent area, mostly white. And so most of the people in the gym were white, about 3 Caucasian women, 3 Caucasian males. There was one older black guy. Okay, so he's got some money. He's up in this area. And he left eventually out of the gym. And then there was like an Indian guy, East Indian guy, who's darker than me, but he was up in the gym, East Indian. And then as I was finishing up my workout, getting ready to leave, who walks in the gym? It's a very small gym. It's like a community gym, but for this area. And it was a white woman with her mulatto daughter. And the daughter was like a grade school. It's a young girl. So it's like, and that was just today's occurrence. And I was mainly working from home today. I went to the gym. I did some other stuff outside of my home, but today was kind of a chill day for me. And so yeah, I didn't really go out too much today in the environment. But on other days when I'm out in the environment, I see a lot more mulattoes everywhere. And that's just in my area right here. Like, I could travel the country and it's like, yeah, yeah, you're going to see a very similar thing. So it's like our numbers are rapidly growing. Like there's so many of us now. It just doesn't make sense. Like, how are you going to be outcasted when you have enough people? Just work with the people you're good you can work with. Because even for me, like a lot of my opposition or my detractors, but with doing this social media, are other mulattoes, right? Most of them, the ones who don't like me, they were enculturated in a different generation to where they're trying to use the street cred. They're from the hood, they're pro-black. So they're using that metric of, being, the more blacker and more hood you are, the more cool you are. And so I don't identify with them. And the other people who are kind of my detractors, whatnot, they're like, they got black baby daddies, right? And part of their pathway to blackness is to insult and defame and slander light skin and mulatto men who are not black identified. So it's like you just have to sort through the mess, sort through the shit. Like a lot of these people, these mulattoes, I'm not gonna like. I'm gonna block them, tell them don't get out of my channel, get out of here, right? But a lot of you guys have been here since I started. More people are coming in, it's growing and stuff like that. So it's like I'm good. And this is just the internet stuff. This is not even off the internet what I'm doing. And so for me, this is just part of the process. You're not going to get along with everybody. But this whole idea, like with the George Wallace argument and the black supremacists who, basically parrot what the white supremacists say, their whole thing is, well, you're going to be outcasted, right? Which is false. There's too many of us now to where someone said it in the chat a couple weeks ago, where it's like, there's enough of us now, we can literally procreate with each other and be self-sustaining. I mean, this is where we're at right now. This is what I see. Let me finish this clip off.
Today, the United States Supreme Court handed down a decision. The Lovings ordeal is at last over. Richard and Mildred Loving have won the right to be man and wife, father and mother in the state of Virginia. Anti-miscegenation laws have been declared illegal not only in Virginia, but in all 16 states that have held such statutes. This is Hope Ryden, ABC News, reporting.
Right. So the case started in Virginia base, but it spread throughout the entire, they made the case for the entire nation. That essentially, as I mentioned prior, that the Racial Integrity Act was deemed unconstitutional in part for the 14th Amendment, their due process rights and their equal protection. So let me show a map real quick. We got here. I found this on another video. Thought it was pretty interesting. States with interracial marriage bans. The gray, this graph, it says no anti-miscegenation laws passed. It's like a couple states. Like I said, this is a big nation. You travel to other countries, you see how small, you got countries that are like an island. And, you got some some of these states, California or Texas, which are like the biggest states in the country. If you put these states in like Europe, for instance, where I was at last year, these states take up like majority of the makeup of Europe. Like it's crazy because even in like I was in England last year and you could drive through the entire country in like 10 hours or something like that. I could double check. You guys correct me if I'm wrong. I have people who are from England who watch me. But just in California alone, like I'm from Orange County, I drive all the way up through the state to get to like Southern Oregon. That's like a 10-hour drive right there just to drive through the state. So you just imagine like the size of a state like that, California or something, versus an entire country, right, in Europe, etc. So what I'm getting to is that they're not all the states are not the same. The demographics change, the culture changes. There's a lot of nuances depending on where you are, and the laws are all different. Like we'll say, for instance, Nevada, the state of Nevada. I lived in Las Vegas for a while. The state of Nevada is the only state in the country where prostitution is legal. And it's also one of the mints, to believe. The mints, the silver state, Nevada, they have a mint. And I believe Pennsylvania has a mint. if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, the U.S. Mint, which is like the printing press. But Nevada, yeah, they have their laws are a little different, right? And most of the territory in like a Nevada or Arizona, New Mexico, it's like federal territory. There's not a bunch of inhabitants in these states versus the population of like California or Texas or Florida or New York, other states where it's much more populous. But yeah, the laws are different depending on where you're at geography. So let's check this out. No anti-miscegenation laws passed, the gray ones, the green ones. There was no laws passed on anti-miscegenation before 1887. So this is post after the Civil War, right? Then they implemented a law saying, okay, we don't want more mulattoes, we don't want black men having access to white women, so they put a law there. And then in the yellow states, this is the West. This is considered the West, all the way out here. I'm from California, right? And it says 1948 to 1967. It's all, yeah. 1967 is when that Loving versus Virginia passed nationwide, but 1948 is interesting. I think my grandmother's from Oklahoma, my African American side. She moved to California when I believe in the 50s or 60s or something. So it's crazy to think that, you know, a couple of decades prior, they had like laws against, you know, but yeah, 1948. In the state, California has been a part of the union since like the 1800s, right? The mid 1800s. So for over, let's say 100 years, they didn't have any laws on the books about, you know, miscegenation or anti-miscegenation. And then the 12th of June is for the red states, 1967. Interesting collection of data there. So 1924 Racial Integrity Act. Why is this significant? I'm going to use Wiki as a source for this one. Obviously, I mean, I'm going to get into it as well about how I'm actually going to contest some of the information they have, especially with regards to this one drop rule, because they do need to be corrected and checked on something. I have a guy actually here, the Celtic Mulatto, who's doing his part. I appreciate him. And yeah. So we can take it for what it is. You know, take the good out of it, use the sources, and of course, you know, double check our sources, make sure they're accurate. But let's check this out here. It says Supreme Court repeals and an apology, 1967 to 2022. This is the Racial Integrity Act in 1924, which is what people call the one drop rule. As you saw on the cover, or I should say the thumbnail, you have Virginia Register of Statistics, Walter Pleckard, the guy right here, the leader of the Anglo-Saxon Clubs of America, white supremacist organization founded in Richmond, Virginia. He was a central figure in establishing his one-drop rule to neutralize mulattoes. This is why his image is shared. And let's get to this. Supreme Court repeals an apology, 1967 to 2022. On June 12th, which is today's June 12th, but this is back in 1967, right? Which the one-drop rule was officially outlawed. The U.S. Supreme Court ruled in Loving versus Virginia that the portion of the Racial Integrity Act that criminalized marriages between whites and non-whites was found to be contrary to the guarantees of equal protection of citizens under the 14th Amendment of the United States Constitution. In 1975, the Virginia General Assembly repealed the remainder of the Racial Integrity Act. In 1979, it repealed the Sterilization Act. That's how deep they call that eugenics. They got right. That's crazy. Sterilization Act. Insane. Okay. In 2001, the General Assembly overwhelmingly passed a bill. Okay. You have the numbers here, letters, numbers, right? HJ 607ER to express the Assembly's profound regret for its role in the eugenics movement. On May the 2nd, 2002, Governor Mark R. Warner issued a statement also expressing profound regret for the Commonwealth's role in the eugenics movement. specifically naming Virginia's 1924 compulsory sterilization legislation. So they're talking about how they, regret the apologies and all this stuff, and how we know in 1967, we showed the map across the board. What started in Virginia nationwide, where they basically outlawed the anti-miscegenation laws that the states tried to uphold, which said it was unconstitutional under the equal protection of United States citizens. But there is apologies there, etc. But they did not reinstate mulatto on the census. This is the tricky thing here. This is what we see today. Well, yeah, they're saying, it's Loving Day, Loving versus Virginia, and the Racial Integrity Act, the one drop rule, which, by the way, is not Black history. It's not African American history. The one drop rule is mulatto American history. Loving versus Virginia is mulatto history. It's not Black history. This is something I'm trying to get people to understand, that you do have a history in this nation if you're a mulatto. Because your detractors, your Black supremacists, they're going to tell you you don't have a history, you don't have an identity, but you do have a history. You do have an identity. It's up to you to discover it, to acknowledge it, and tap into it, to embrace it, and of course, build upon it. That's up to you. I'm just one guy with a microphone and some balls trying to encourage people in the best way that I can. So yeah, the 14th Amendment was ratified in 1868. Get into that, right? U.S. Constitution deals with citizenship rights and equal protection under law. We mentioned that. It grants citizens and all persons born of naturalized in the United States, regardless of race and ethnicity. It forbids the states from depriving any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, or from denying anyone equal protections of the law. That was the specific clause that the ACLU used to state their case to the Supreme Court and won. Now they won, so now Black people and white people, they can hate each other and cry on the internet, but then they'll go make their little prawn, their interracial prawn, and make money, right? They'll have kids, but then they're both going to fight each other on how their kids are going to identify. Like we see the situation with I like the actress Halle Berry, but she got into a battle with her husband because her husband, Halle Berry's husband, doesn't want her to call her their kids Black. But Halle Berry, she's trying to identify her kids being Black. And Halle Berry's like biracial, so their kids are not Black, like they're 25% at best Black, right? But she's trying to enforce the one drop rule. And remember, I like Halle Berry. I'm a fan of her. But I think that she's definitely needs to be schooled and educated on the fact that times are changing now today. It's not like it was back then. And that's okay. That's what social media we're here to do. We're here to help people, right? And so yeah, he doesn't want he's not enforcing the one drop rule on his children, but she is, and she's biracial. You're like, go figure, right? What's the benefit of that? So yeah, I just use her as an example. I'm not sure why, but any person, liberty, property without due process. Yeah, let's continue on. So thing is, Wikipedia, like I said, I'm using them as a source when necessary. I think they can kind of position bullet points where it's easily more digestible to the public. But I was talking to Emily the past couple days, actually, but today I messaged her a few times, and because I was going to have a stream today, just kind of going over some comments and that I received from you guys. I think even Val in the chat, I received a comment from her the other day that I wanted to talk about. I'm gonna do a live stream probably tomorrow or Friday for sure, just going over some comments. So I plan on doing that. I was gonna do that today, but after my discussion or my talk with Emily earlier today, I was thinking to myself, you know what? I forgot today's Loving versus Virginia. So let me go over something that's a little more kind of critically important. I feel like using this day as a kind of as a marker to highlight the seriousness of the situation, where I look at it as like, okay, they've made it legal for Black and white people to basically intermingle with each other and have relationships. That's good. But what about the children? They're still they're not establishing, they didn't reinstate the mulatto status. Now they're slowly but surely doing that now. The issue is there's a lot of vagueness in some of the terminology that they're implementing. Like I said, with like multiracial or mixed race. And some of these knuckleheads, they want to use terms like golden. They're identifying themselves with their skin color, not their heritage, right? Because with white people, they'll use their heritage. They say Caucasian. With black people, they'll use their heritage. They'll say African American, right? Every other ethnic group uses their heritage, but these golden idiots want to still go by their skin color to say, I'm light skinned and I'm golden. That's my, whatever. Everyone on the planet's golden. Good luck. But with mulatto, you are concretely identifying what it is you are, your heritage, culture, genetic makeup. You are European and African. You're the fusion. So they've removed that classification from us. Like I said, 1924 with the Loving versus Virginia, they did not reinstate our unique classification. So there's still, we can say, secretly, I know there's a better word I can use, but adhering to the one drop rule, right? They don't have any legal standing to do it, but they're still trying to push it in that way to where they want to try to force you and they want to force you into a position that doesn't seem natural to you, where they tell you, you got to just check one box. It happened to me not too long ago. You got to check. And this was a government, agency. Mostly when I look at these job applications and surveys and other type of even county or even state like surveys or questionnaires, they say check what you want, 2 or more, or multiracial is an option. That's what I wanted to get at as well. That we see the multiracial option popping up more and more every day throughout this country, but it's very vague for me. It's very vague, and like there's so many mulattoes around the planet, and even a lot of my audience, people I've connected with in the UK, they're just quintessentially mulatto. And I see these ladies or the gentlemen where it's like you got a white parent, black parent, you're mulatto, right? To me, it's very fitting, and it simplifies everything. There's less room for ambiguity. If only more people could embrace that, acknowledge that, and of course move forward. Now, Emily, that's why I really appreciate her, and I really like everything that she stands for, and that's why I kind of embrace, if she asks me, to mention this, reference this, talk about this, do that, I'm definitely inclined to, because she's mulatto identified. So that works for me. If I can find more people like that who understand the importance of this, of us having our tribe, which people want to rob from us, if we can embrace the tribe, this is really what it's all about, giving us a voice. So let me get to some comments, and I can get into some other specifics, like with kind of the tricky terminology of Wikipedia and how I'm going to try to basically contest that. I drafted up a text that I do want to present. Let me see where I leave off on the comments. Let me go back up here. I think I left off on this one. It said, you're a 90s baby. You said you've seen American History X before. California is the reason why you have Aryan Brotherhood. Yeah. And then Celine's here. Yeah, George Wallace. I couldn't believe it. It was a black guy, pro-black, on TikTok, who was quoting George Wallace. He said something about like, oh, the mulattoes are going to be outcasted in society or something. So, but the pro-black, see, they want you to identify as black so they can use you, right? Like you have a guy like the Golden Pookie who's against mulattoes. So he's a pro-black. He's going to fight for the blacks, right? Against mulattoes, right? It's like they want guys like that. They want the mulatto who's a crash test dummy they can use. They don't want the mulatto who doesn't identify with the hood boogers, right? And this is why, and they're going to start quoting these white supremacists. They already are, like George Wallace. Like, I'm not surprised today with all this stuff I've seen on social media, how racist a lot of the Afrocentrics are to mulattoes. Like, I'm not surprised, but it's very interesting to see it. The woman on Loving vs. Virginia was a mulatto woman, I believe. Yeah, she was like multiracial, right? Yeah, she had European, African, and Native American. I don't know. Yeah, even on the video that I have here, it actually says it in the description. It says the tribe. Let me pull it up for you. I apologize if I'm not gonna like accurately pronounce it effectively, but I know you guys can see that. It says right here. I think you guys can see it. Let me pull it up. I could probably zoom it in a little bit. Yeah. It says right here, Mildred Jeter, that's her name, was born in 1939. She was of African, and it says Rappahannock Native American descent. So I apologize if I'm not pronouncing that correct, but it says right here they have their kind of sources there. So yeah, I believe someone pointed out to me as well prior that she's partially Native American. Like, again, I don't know her whole like configuration and heritage and all that stuff. I just know you look at her, it's obvious. If someone says she's part Native American, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I believe it, yeah. But see, what I laugh at is when I see someone that looks like Wesley Snipes or Shaquille O'Neal or whatever, and they're sitting there pretending they're Native American. I'm like, who are you fooling? You can only pull that in your little circles, in your little street corner. Like, you got people, man, seriously, looking like Shaquille O'Neal, looking like Kwame Brown, trying to convince you that they're Aboriginal. It's like, okay. Like, I don't play with those people, okay? I don't. People only saw a problem with interracial marriage if it was a black man and white woman. Yeah, you've noted that as well. And that goes back to even the early 1900s. You had a boxer named Jack Johnson. And he would drive. He was a very rich, wealthy, heavyweight boxer, Jack Johnson. And he liked white women. And he traveled through different parts of the country. And in some states, he would get a citation because interracial relationships were illegal, right? Some states. So he'd get fined, a ticket, he'd get, cited or thrown in jail. Like, he was breaking a law. He was an outlaw, basically. But to him, it was worth it because he liked white women. Now, I don't know how severe the laws could have been. Remember, he was like an alpha male. He was a pro boxer. At that time, boxing was the number one sport in America. The turn of the century, the early 1900s, right? Then baseball kind of came up after that. During the Great Depression, baseball rose to be like the number one sport. But in the early 1900s, you didn't have like, American football and basketball and these hockey and the other stuff. So boxing, was the number one sport. Jack Johnson was definitely a pioneer at that time, but he did like white women. There's a ton of documentaries out there. You guys could watch that stuff if you like the combat sports. But yeah, and they were against him. They were against him because, he would fight white guys and beat them up in a boxing ring, but he liked white women. And like I said, he would travel to certain parts of the country where it was illegal and all this stuff, and they would get tickets and fines, and he kind of paid the price for it in some ways. But that's what they were against. They weren't against the other way around. The white guy with the Native American woman or the white guy with the Asian woman or whatever. So, man, as much as I know that their issue was with the black man having access to the white woman, right? Even when it was illegal, it wasn't as socially a taboo with the white guy and black woman. Yeah, of course. Yep. Yeah, as much as I do. You don't need to be highly educated to understand this. When you look at, what's going on and just lived experience. But don't forget, too, that the leader of the American Nazi Party was a fan of Nation of Islam and Malcolm X. Of course they were. Even there's a guy, I've talked about him on a stream prior. He, one of these white separatist guys who really doesn't like mulattoes, because they fear us more than the blacks. They know the blacks will just get in line and be, docility and acquiescence is what they're known for. But they see the mulattoes, they have flashbacks of Carthage, of what the guy Hannibal and Carthage in Rome and John Zombie in Haiti and all the, they have flashbacks of these guys. So they know the mulattoes are going to compete with them for power. But they know the blacks, the darker they are, Kwame Brown, Michael Jordan, DMX, Kendrick Lamar, they're going to do what they're told. And so, so the guy I said, like, he said he was a fan of Malcolm X, right? This white separatist guy, of course. Yeah. And then, yeah, of course, because, yeah, what else is there to say about that? All the evidence is in front of you. And if you don't know, please post a comment. Tell me, I'll let you know. Even the white side is trying to say what the mulatto and multiracial experience is going to be. But if we ever try to speak for white and black people on their experiences, they would think it's weird. Yeah, they're going to try to tell us how it's going to be. This is why it's crucial that you start to develop something, a think tank, social media, get your voice out there, get your opinions out here. It's crucial because everyone else is already speaking for you. And they've been speaking for generations. Like we just referenced, this George Wallace guy, who's a governor of Alabama back in the civil rights era, who was a staunch kind of segregationist. But today in 2024, you have literally pro-blacks on TikTok and elsewhere who are going to quote that guy, George Wallace, their white massa, saying how, interracial relationships are bad because they have these mulattoes. They're not going to know where to fit in. See, the pro-black will be okay if that mulatto is a subordinate in their group because you're a minority amongst them. The whole goal with this whole social media is I'm trying to tell them, why don't you want to be in a situation where you're the majority? You create your own space. You run the shit over here. You run the house. And it's okay. The numbers aren't what you want. And that's why a lot of these coon lottos and coon ladas sell out, because they want the numbers. They want to be social media or YouTube famous. These people have been doing it on YouTube for 3 years and they're still at the same place they were 2 years ago. They haven't really grown at all. Okay. And it's like they just want the numbers. They want to be famous and big, so they include everyone in their group. But what's going to happen eventually is they better not talk about race or politics. They better go stick to entertainment because they're going to basically be a minority amongst their own situation. And most of the successful mulattoes, I mean, you got people like Amala, but she was well backed by one of the kind of, conservative outlets, a lot of money and finance behind her. And Sage Steele was definitely had major network support to kind of get her started. But let's continue on. A lot of country bumpkins in the red states who aren't intelligent still are stuck in the ways of even going as far to say interracial marriage is a sin. Yeah, there's people who use a lot of religious dogma to kind of justify that. Says, I'm Generation Z, so seeing interracial couples isn't taboo like it is for Gen X or baby boomers. Yeah, baby boomers for sure. Because their birth from that era, civil rights era. My mom was born, I believe, 1956. My mom. So like she was born and she kind of grew up into that whole era with like the hippies and the civil rights era and all that stuff. So she was a kid seeing all that in her environment. And look what route she went, right? Which even for her is kind of like not the norm in this country. But as you've stated, with each generation, it becomes less taboo. You're an urban designer. I have always envisioned a master plan community designed to be a mulatto enclave. White Americans and the elderly have paid to have communities built for them. Yeah, and they have it in such a way. And I live in kind of a community like that to a degree where, yeah, they have it to where it's like the gated communities and they have golf courses and tennis clubs. And they've structured it in such a way to where it's almost like it's open to the public, but there's still a high level of seclusion. It's quite interesting how they're able to operate. Yeah. More on that later. Black Americans will never let go of the one drop rule. They can't even stop talking about. So yeah, they can't stop talking about slavery. They need the one drop rule because they need us more than we need them. Right. And that's something a lot of these mulattoes, I feel like the ones who have black baby daddies and their kids are mostly black. See, they're always going to basically serve the community. And that's what you just have to understand. I know a lot of people don't like me saying that. They're going to be offended, stuff like that. But it's true. A guy like me, where I have these options out here, like if people who've already decided like what community that they are loyal to or they want to serve, and that's, they can have fun there. But for a guy like me, I understand the truth where it's like, well, I don't really need them, the community. I don't need them. Ever since I was 18, 17, and I was like going to the public library to look like Black history books, like W.E.B. Du Bois or Marcus Garvey, different books, you know, to educate myself. Back when I was 18, like I'm a standard mulatto. Like I was doing all the work as a standard mulatto. I was educating myself, putting myself in environments, you know, where I can kind of connect with people and help learn and see what I can do to help them. For me, I understood the main thing was just a business. I was like, I want to support your business. What are you doing? What are you selling? Let me help you out, put more money in your pocket. And but I realized, yeah, like we do more for them than they'll ever do for us, right? What the hell are they doing for you? I always try to figure it out. Like, what do they, like, I guess if you want to have a social media following, you want to grift off people, you know, say what they want, I guess. They always try to push this down our throats. You said white supremacy, fuck white supremacy. Says it uses white supremacist rule. Yeah. All mixed people need to do really is to isolate the mulatto history and stop calling it Black history. It contributed to the cause, but still not Black history. Yeah, it's mulatto history. It's contributed to Black, you know, advancements, but it's not Black history. It's mulatto history. Just like there's white history that's contributed to the advancement of civilization in the world with medicine, architecture, science. Look at the transportation with the airplane. There's white history and white technology that's helped everybody around the planet has benefited from it, right? But they still hold on to their history. It's still their accomplishments. But with us, with mulattoes, when we develop a technology, when we develop something, do something groundbreaking, we find that with Black Afrocentrics, they want to claim it as theirs, while at the same time exercising the right to outgroup you at their convenience, like what they're doing with Drake. And if you don't understand by now, everything that happened to Drake, it will happen to you eventually. Okay, you will get your Drake treatment eventually. Mark my words. They're going to be dancing and singing, not like us. Like we've been studied this enough now. You should know that what they're doing to Drake is a standard operating procedure. They will do it to any one of you people, regardless of what field you're in, if you outshine them and you show that you're better than them. They will let you know you're not a part of my group. You're not a part of my tribe. You ain't from the hood. Massa thinks you better than me. That I don't like that, right? So the mulatto history is significant. That's why I named this channel Mulatto History Channel, because you have to understand they're already trying to steal your history. They're trying to co-opt your identity and history and claim it as their own. And how they do that is they say light skin. This is a light skin, you know, history. This is a light skin. What the fuck does that mean? Everyone else is light skin. The only people that are dark skin are like the East Indians and Africans, sub-Saharan Africans. Everyone else, like, right? They are doing that. They're saying light skin to hoodwink you to think you're a part of their group. Okay. And there's a lot of people who play into that. This is why I'm very careful with this whole MLS terminology. Now, I did use it on my stream a couple streams ago because the gentleman put, I thought it was pretty funny in his reference to kind of, you know, mediocre dustiness. I was like, this is funny. He used MLS, the terminology, but that's like golden sphere terminology. And if you know anything about the golden sphere, they wanted to kind of hoodwink the mulattoes to do all the work. Because a lot of content creators were mulatto. Miranda, me, and several others, you know, Magic Mulatto, several others were mulattoes. And so they wanted us to do all the videos, the live streams, do all the work, and then all light-skinned blacks benefit from it. Same thing they're going to do. They're going to claim all your history. This is a light-skinned brother or something. No, wait a second. He's got a white mom. He's got a white dad or something. No, this ain't a light-skinned dude. This is a mulatto. And okay, it's on you guys to call it out, call a spade, because they will forever try to drown you out and claim your wins. And remember, they're going to do that. The light skins, they're going to be working with the dark skins to sabotage you. This is their goal. And the whole goal is they want access to the women and they want to neutralize you. This is how they obtain. They're joking about it now, even on TikTok. You see some of these people. Even on YouTube, some guy was like, he said something about, because of one woman who I do like, because she embraces the word mulatto, she identifies mulatto. And I did a video on her and I made a quote. I generated a quote on her, Jasmine. I was like, yeah, I like how she's smart enough to understand that she's has a racial consciousness and she's proud of who she is. She's not going to let the blacks try to bully her. She's mulatto. I love that. She's younger than me and she has a huge following. And some incel cockroach from the hood took that. He found out that this lady has an OnlyFans account and he's all trying to say that I'm endorsing this woman who has an OnlyFans account. And, and he said something about using her for race advice or something like that. She's one mulatto amongst plenty of others I've connected with over on social media. But you see, this guy, this cockroach, will just use one example like that to try to slander me. And then he turns around and says, how much you want to bet she's on OnlyFans, bouncing up and down on a black rod or something like. He made some reference like that. See, that's what that's their joke. They're kind of taunt because they want to bastardize all. That's how they compete with other men, with the Latinos, with the white men, because they can't compete with the men on the battlefield. They don't have the technology or the organization. So what they do, because they're tribalistic, what they do is they want to get access to the women to bastardize the group. So that's precisely we already see the strategy. Let me continue on because I could do a whole nother kind of stream on that. One thing I hate is that black people are seriously outdated on many things in this country. Not only one drop rule, but they think whites hate us like it's 1800s. Yeah, our parents are white. Our parents are white, but they still talk to us as if, oh, well, when you really get around them white folks, they gonna show you how they really feel. Okay, well, when they see your dark-skinned black ass show up, then the whole world's gonna know the difference when they see me and they see you. Oh, mulatto vanguard, you bald-headed fool. You just look like a light-skinned black. You ain't shit. You just like it. I don't give a damn. Man, we ain't the same, homie. Kendrick Lamar was right. I'm not like you. Okay. Yeah, blacks don't have a white parent, right? I had the option to type in my racial classification as mulatto. And when a black insurance agent called to complete my application, she started a conversation by asking why. Black insurance agent. That's interesting. But see, they gave you the option. But the thing is, you noted here, only blacks are offended by that. You notice that? They're not offended by the N-word. Oh, shoot a nigga, kill a nigga. We from the hood, nigga. I'm a hard nigga. You come over here, nigga. We gonna do this, nigga. They're not offended by the N-word, right? Or Negro, as I pointed out earlier. They're not offended by that. But the word mulatto, they're offended by. So you were trying to do business and help this company make some money, talk about auto insurance. And you had some black lady who called in. The first thing she wanted to tell you was not the quote, not the coverage. She wanted to go for this whole mulatto situation. They're not offended by the word mulatto for its historical implications or perceived historical implications. They're upset with the word mulatto because you will not identify with them. You're weakening their influence because they want you to be a minority amongst their group. Once you have your own group, you have your own situation, you run the shots. This is ours, baby. I mean, they can cry to their white massa to shut this down. That's fine. We'll have other platforms. We'll have other resources. And we're developing allies on the daily. This is international now for me. We got coloreds in South Africa, pardos in Brazil. We got mulattoes and mulattas in Dominican Republic. We got the UK mulattoes. So this is international now, right? So you're developing these allies every day, and they're basically losing allies, and it's because of their behavior, their culture. You're not gonna pick a fight and pick on people, and to where you think they know that the Gen Xers and the Boomers, they were bullied because they didn't have an option in this country. We're talking about it right now with this Loving versus Virginia. That era, that time period, there was a lot of things different going on in this nation now that it is now, right? we have the option now. So I find it interesting you said where she had a problem. The first thing she wanted to talk to you about was mulatto, right? Because those are the only people who were upset about mulatto. The whites don't give a shit. The Latinos, they don't care because it's a Spanish word. They already know what it means. Yeah, very typical, right? How is someone born in 2001 stuck in 1874? When your whole identity is about being a victim, right? Being a proud victim, that's kind of how it is. They want that fake trauma, 80 IQ. People need to stop claiming the small percentage of DNA. It's embarrassing. Yeah, and what would you consider kind of small percentages? I'm interested to know as well, because like the cutoff point for me, I'm kind of lenient in my regards where I'm like, it's 60-40 cutoff. I'm 50-50. I'm pretty sure Val, you are as well. A lot of us are 50-50, even like a Zoe Kravitz, who they'll use the term at MGM. She's an MGM, right? But she's mulatto. She's 50-50. Both of her parents are. So, you know, I don't know. I think I'm lenient in a sense. Well, I'll do okay, 40-60. Okay, I'll play that game with you. You know, maybe you're, whatever. I don't get into percentages. The thing is mainly there is a cutoff line for me personally, but how you identify. Where are your values at, right? Because the culture, the values are extremely important. Where are your values? Do you support having strong families, healthy families, loving families? Do you have the sense of community? How do you identify? Like, this is the big thing for me. This is a big thing. But like I said, the cutoff, there is percentages. I'm a 50-50 guy. I mean, that's my genetic makeup, but I'll be even more lenient. Like if you're like 60% African and 40 European, okay, or vice versa, etc. Like I'm not super fixated on that. It's just, because there is diversity in our phenotype. You look at a guy like me versus a guy like Bob Marley or a guy like Barack Obama, etc. Or, right, where it's like some of us, a lot of us, we look more so African phenotypically than we do European and vice versa. So there's diversity with us of how we look. But then again, how do you identify? Are you proud of your European heritage? Because you got people out here who try to talk down on their European heritage. And then you come to find out, well, your European father or mother supported you the whole damn time. So why are you slapping them in the face? Like someone who does that, it's very insulting and it shows that you lack integrity. And that's not good for us as a collective. If you are so desperate to be accepted amongst another group where you're going to put this group down, I don't like that. That's just me personally. I don't like that. I'm going to say something about that because I position myself to where I have a voice and people are going to listen. Fuck it. You guys are going to listen. Okay. And of course, maybe you'll get tired of me and go listen somewhere else. I mean, I've been doing this for 2 years, so it is what it is. Some black men were deleted for being with white women, and that didn't stop them. Yeah, I mean, a lot of those like lynchings occurred because of that, right? And other kind of nefarious reasons. I mean, and there are a lot of times in this country where it was like for sport, if they wanted to attack a black person, they would have like lynch mobs, literally they call that, where they attack it. So there's legitimate real terrorism in history for a lot of the claims that black people do make. Like even for I saw the movie with what's his name, Will Smith, King Richards, right? That was Serena Williams' father, was King Richards, right? So I believe he experienced a situation like that in Louisiana. I think that's where he's originally from, where like he saw his friend get lynched and he like had to fight like white mobs back then. I don't know, was it the 70s or 60s or something like that? So it's like, and that's been going on for a while. Real legitimate like terrorism and stuff like that, right? So there's legitimate claims about that. But look at his results. Look at how he took a horrific situation like that, experiencing the death of his friend and terrorism and trauma, and he created his daughters are the best tennis players on the planet, right? And he did that. He took a negative, life-changing, traumatic situation and turned it into a situation where his offspring are like the most valuable tennis players. So that's an interesting case because we'll see a lot of people, as you said, on the internet who were born in 2001 who have never experienced that, but they'll live their life like they're in 1862, right? Like they're on the planet. It's very bad. Let me continue on because it's like, ugh, I'm so over it, man. This proud victim crap. White men no longer gatekeep white women. They can't though because they don't have the legal backing, and white women are the majority of the nation. And they have increasingly more and more power every year, so they can't really gatekeep them. They have their own situation in their own community they have to deal with. In the early 2000s, when white women started dating more black men, they got mad. Then they gave up eventually by 2015. Yeah. Yeah, now they're basically going the route with Asian women, and they're going to create a bunch of papas, which are already a significant population. And I've seen on one thread, I don't know, was it Stormfront, one of these blogs a while ago, where they referenced that it was a white woman who was concerned. It created a whole thread talking about that. It's like, yeah, the men are going to go and get the best option for them. If the women, don't really fall in line with what the men are asking and, trying to seek out, the men will just easily find it somewhere else. Like that's been the way it's been throughout history. And with the technology, it's men who develop the airplane. It's the men who develop these advanced technologies. They'll just jump on an airplane, fly to another island. Like, what was that movie I saw? It was called Mutiny on the Bounty. It was like Anthony Hopkins and Mel Gibson back in like the 80s. Interesting movie because I think they're in Tahiti. The ship was banded in Tahiti, and then the whole like ship, created mutiny. And tried to overthrow the captain, who was Anthony Hopkins. This is a pretty good movie. It's based off a true story. But the thing is, in a movie with Anthony Hopkins, or Mel Gibson, let me say, where he was on this island in Tahiti, he ended up falling in love or like falling for one of these island women. Like that's, it's funny because that's like a real story, and that still happens today. Like my childhood friend, who's a white guy, he's like a ginger guy, freckles, red hair. And like he got his partner now is in the Philippines. He has a family out there. Like these guys, like they're gonna jump on a plane and they're gonna find what they want elsewhere. I mean, this is the way the world works. Let me continue on. Val, I think they get mad when it's an attractive, blonde-haired, blue-eyed, thin, relatively young white woman interracially dating. But it's not only them. I've seen it with Chicano men as well. They'll get mad if it's a very attractive Chicana woman who's with someone who's not Mexican as well. So it works. It works a lot like that. Yeah. I haven't noticed that recently because so many now, especially in your age group, have a thing for Asian women. Yeah. 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 They definitely have better chances for sure. I've seen, my best chances have been with Latinas. So, which I'm very happy with because it's very complimentary. But I've noticed that with white guys, they tend to have pretty good chances with the Asian persuasion, if I can say it like that. They don't get mad at fat white women for doing the same. Not the fat ones, huh? They mock them. They laugh at them. I remember in high school, I was like at lunchtime. There's a white guy who's in like my kind of clique, so to speak, my group. And of course, being mulatto, the mutability, I could navigate to all different groups and kind of, commingle and kind of make my way there. Didn't have an issue relating to different ethnic groups. But as one white guy, I think I said one day, like, oh, I'm mixed black and white. And the first thing that came out of this white guy's mouth, this is in high school, right? So I was like 15. He said, like, oh, well, let me guess, your mom is fat. I was like, no, my mom's never been fat. But I guess that's like a stereotype that there's a lot of people who are kind of push, where it's like, oh, if you're mixed, you must have a broke black dad and your mom's fat or some shit. Like that was a stereotype, I guess. I was like, hell no, my mom's not fat. No one in my family's fat. I'm probably the fattest person in my family, and I got a couple extra pounds on my belly. That's it. I can easily lose it, which I am losing it. Shit, I was at the gym today. And but no, that's a stereotype. They don't care if it's a fat white woman with a black guy, right? If it's a white woman who's in shape or kind of like you said, a model body, model aesthetic or something like that, who's attractive, then they kind of feel like they're losing something. Yeah, that's true. Let me kind of speed through some of these comments because I do have a couple other clips I want to share, or not clips, actually just some commentary on Wikipedia and kind of the trickery with the language they use, the vagueness, and how they're using this to kind of as sorcery, essentially, to enforce the one drop rule, but with the pen legally when they know it's not on the books. They used to have laws to enforce it, to tell you if you are a mulatto and you check white, you could get fined or imprisonment. They can't do that today. Like, I checked white on an application. I looked the lady dead in the eye. She's a white lady. What the hell are you people gonna do? Like, you don't have an option for me. There's been times where I just check black. Even I was proudly just checking black. I don't even check mixed. I just check black, even though I got a white mama. I've done that too. Okay, until these people get it together, and it's on us to push them. To be honest with you, on you mulattoes, listen to me. It's on us to push them, to enforce them. They need to give us our box, right, or the option, because people don't like that whole box analogy. Don't put me in a box and all this. Well, we're gonna need our option. Then again, his parents, Vietnam. Yeah, interesting. You say, like, Asian guys and white guys, it's not a huge deal for white women to date Asian men either. I usually see it the other way around. And then you put 35, when she picked a high school, she was shocked to see white kids and black kids intermingling. Asian guys asked me out, but every time I was already in a relationship 10 years ago, I actually just stopped dating American men altogether. All these podcasts and red pills nonsense. It's rot. Yeah. Yeah, it's the Drake treatment. I think the Angry Man called it that. He's another one of the red pill guys, right? The Angry Man. But his position on the Drake case, because it's not balanced out here. You got biracials who were sticking up for Kendrick and stuff, and it's like they don't understand that eventually they're gonna get the Drake treatment. That's literally what, like, people act like Drake is so special. I don't even fuck with Drake like that. I was never the biggest Drake fan. My favorite rapper lyrically, as far as an MC, their flow, is Brother Lynch Hung. And he's from Sacramento, Northern California. He's like a 90s rapper, right, from the Bay Area. So I would say Brother Lynch Hung is probably my favorite rapper MC. I like a lot of different music. Like, I like heavy metal, I like Sade, classical jazz, all that stuff. But for hip hop or rap, I like Ice Cube a lot too. Like DJ Quick. I'm a West Coast guy, so I like the West Coast shit. I like KRS-One and stuff too, A Tribe Called Quest. But yeah, like, Drake is not even like my favorite rapper, but he does have a lot of hits, and like, he has a lot of songs that I like, so I fuck with Drake. But he's not really that special. But it's like, because he's rose to the top and he's a number one artist, undeniable, they have to kind of take him down. It's like crabs in a bucket, right? In the community, they have to kind of bring him down. This is their modus operandi, especially because he's biracial. If he was just a black, they'd be all cool with it, right? If he's from the hood, he's a black. Oh, he FBA. He don't know the culture because he mama from Canada. See, that's how they play that game with you. He don't know the culture because he mama from Canada. He ain't from the hood. He ain't dark skinned from the hood. He not like us, right? Drake is not special. But what they're doing to Drake and how they are there, because they'll get on code to attack the mulatto. Just like Chrissy, the BWE dark skin activist, and just like Kwame Brown. He was what they call that, a bust NBA player, dark skin, kind of manosphere guy. They'll get on code with each other to attack the mulatto, right? That's what you see with the whole Drake situation. They'll all get on code automatically. Even though Drake was caping for them, talking about, I like my girls BBW, right? Basically, dog whistling, kind of shouting out all the BBW. We know who he's talking about. He's talking about the black women. That was on that collab he did with Nicki Minaj and Lil Wayne, talking about how he likes his girls BBW. We know he was talking to the black women. So he's been caping for them for years. And now I look all over social media. I'm seeing all these black women who cry about colorism all day. They're going to throw Drake under the damn bus, call him a colonizer because he got a white mom, but they're going to support the dark skinned guy, Kendrick Lamar, with his light skin, mixed race preference, they're going to support him. See, it's like you can't make this up, man. Everything that they've talked about and cry about colorism and stuff, they turned a blind eye to it to support the other black male who they worship. That's why I know they're full of shit. And that's why I laugh and I call it a communita and not a community, because they don't it's not a community. Like there's no values and structures and principles there to enforce. It's tribalism and a free for all. And whenever a mulatto in their environment rises to the top, it's their modus operandi to bring him down, right? So yeah, you trust me, you're going to get the Drake treatment eventually. And a lot of these people, they know it. They're so threatened by us just having white DNA. It really shows whites as gods. You're not going to find a lot of good positive models for what a family looks like in social media in the States, sadly, because it's not PC. I like taking advice from cultures that have more success. Yeah, you make a good point. Yeah, definitely. You make a very good point. But my parents have a pretty attractive marriage. I learned a lot from them and their friends. That's definitely good, for sure. What do your parents think of you being a mulatto activist? Are they supportive? Do you talk about this with them? You talk about me personally or someone in the chat? I don't know if I would call myself a mulatto activist. I'm a voice. I'm spreading awareness, but I wouldn't go so far to use that activist label. Not for me personally. I wouldn't say I'm an activist. Like I said, like I was talking to Emily earlier, and Emily's already proved like she's proud to be mulatto. And I'm looking at her like I think she's a veteran. She has her own business. She's a professional woman, older than me. So shout out to the Gen Xers who are, you know, doing their thing and being good role models. And I see that and I acknowledge that. And I feel like I'm kind of a duty or obligation to return the favor. So to me, it's kind of at that grassroots level or on an individual basis. If I see this person on social media, whatever, I like what they're doing, they reach out to me or I reach out to them. Like I'm willing to have this kind of fair exchange. I think it's a good, I don't really call it activism. I'm just kind of doing my part. Because like I said, with this whole endeavor, I'm thinking about the younger people. They're going to need to have a space where they can step into and feel like, okay, this is where they belong. This is their home. This is their spot. And I feel like a lot of us were missing that level of having that tribe. We're being tricked and hoodwinked and played for fools by different groups who have political interest, right? And we have to develop our own agenda. I have my agenda. It's time for you guys to start to contribute to something that's of a greater cause. You put Dominicans also help the civil rights too, and Latinos, but we don't call it Black history. Great point. Yeah, they did, right? Great point. I like the idea of calling mulatto history the history of human life. Northern Lights. You put Mulatto Vanguard. I saw this black man on a recent TikTok video of yours asking for mulatto women as if you passed them out. Yeah, well, that's what, like I said, because they troll. There's probably some black incel guy and they think they're going to get under my skin or something. They want to troll us, but it's like, look, I've had plenty of access to black women, and all races of men do. Latino men, white men, Asian, everybody has access to black women. That's why it's like, it's not really a jab at me to say that this guy wants like mulatto women or something. Like, I don't care. Like, there's so many women. What the hell do I care? Like, I come across I meet new mulatto women all the time, not only on the internet, but off the internet. So it's like, what the hell do I care? Not just mulattoes, just Latinos, whatever is out here. But they do that to kind of troll us. They see, like I said, because they want to challenge the men in a way where they want to bastardize these groups of men, right? And they want to go after the women. And, they want to bastardize the group. So that's why to them, it's like a jab. I saw that guy. I know you're referring to that comment. He's just probably some black incel troll. A lot of these black incels, they call them nigcels, right? That's what they do to try to compete with other men. They'll do that like with the pro-blacks who do that to white guys. Oh, your women want us. Okay, and then you have the mulatto kids, and those kids are going to turn on your black ass. Like, they're not going to fight for you. So they're only setting themselves up to basically, lose out here. Sadly, that's all on them based off their behavior and how their culture is positioned to be anti-mulatto, what they're doing to Drake. You think it's in a long run? You think people are going to forget about all this? What they're doing to Drake? You don't think there's going to be consequences for how they're trying to destroy this man's credibility and sabotage and slander him? You think we're all just watching and just, going to smile? I don't think so. Once these mulattoes realize they have another option, which they are every day, it's basically just game over at this point. It's only going to grow. Yeah. Or when I'm watching Peaky Blinders, Outlander, Last Kingdom, instead of being specific about the ethnicity of the people, call it the human history, even though they don't share the same history. Yeah. Well, you saw that with Drake. I want to bring this comment up because about Drake, because remember they're saying that Drake don't say the word nigga no more because he's a colonizer, right? Remember all that? Even though Kendrick's married to a colonizer. Oh, well, she from the hood. You see, they make they move the goalpost, right? I'm just surprised you people still deal with these characters and don't like tax them. Like they got to give you something, right, to entertain. I just don't get it. Like, what do you get like from the whole situation when you already know you have enough numbers now when you can just develop your own shit and grow from that? Where they want to gatekeep him, so you can't say the word. But I thought we were black. I thought I was just a light skinned black. I can't say the word no more, right? Right? Yeah. It's just people just love to play dumb. What you're saying will prove to be unnecessarily because when we learn about different people's history, we must still be specific because we all don't have the same history. Are the Hodge twins mulatto? Yeah, they appear to be mulatto. I mean, you guys tell me. Oh, you have it here. The genealogy results of the Hodge twins, 64, yeah, 60, 40%. Yeah. Yeah, they appear to be mulatto. But they're basically, most of these mulattoes that I see in the right side, conservative side, basically they take the position of, well, I'm just an American. I don't even believe in race. Ha 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 ha. And most of their audience is white, right? Or they'll be the token black, the kind of acceptable light skin, half European black, right? Like in Amala. Like she'll switch. And I like her, pretty girl, pretty woman. She'll say she's biracial, but then down the line, she'll be like, oh, I'm black or something. Like she'll switch it up. She'll keep moving. I'm like, why doesn't she just stick to being biracial and like stick with that? But she'll revert back to saying she's a black person because what it is to basically be that token Negro, so to speak, for the conservatives, right? Because they want the political influence. They want to try to get the black liberals to move over to the conservative side. So they're going to use some of these type of characters in media. Now, I'm pretty much a moderate, a political agnostic. Some people would basically disagree and say, I'm conservative or right wing or something like that. But I don't really cover the politics. I mean, I cover the mulatto politics per se for what I feel is necessary on this show, counteracting the conspiracy theories they push, the extremists push. But yeah, I know I have people listening to me who are more experts in that area. I don't think all black Americans are the same. However, when they speak the truth, other black people shut them down as well. I used to not like the word when I was younger, mainly because I was raised by my white family and feel weird saying around a bunch of white people. During those BLM protests, there were some black men who were found, lynched with ropes or dog leashes. Oh, yeah. Yep. In California as well, where I'm from. And Tariq Nasheed is from California, or he lives in California as well. In 2020, I was in California, so I remember even there was like a handful of stories reported throughout the state. I wouldn't be surprised. You could probably find, you do the research, like 4 or 5 different stories, and there were men, I believe, too, black men, males, who were lynched in California during 2020. So yeah, because I remember, I think Tariq Nasheed reported on a few of them, because at that time I was tuning into the Tariq Nasheed stuff, because that's with the whole ADOS and FBA, the whole split that occurred 2019, 2020. That was the election year. So it's very interesting to see their politics and intermingling and their you know, intra-racial dealings. And that's when I kind of realized, I hit the plug, was like, I got to get the hell away from you people, because I started to see how they were trying to scapegoat mulattoes. Now, they've been trying to do that since like 2015, 2016. So a few years prior. They've really trying to scapegoat mulattoes with Obama and everything. But yeah, they definitely ramped it up because they saw Obama left office. They had Trump for 4 years. Then they saw Kamala Harris was being selected as a vice president. Right. So that, yeah, then the black racists were really upset. They're pushing this anti-mulatto stuff. So matter in fact, I've met more white people who don't even like that word than black people. Yeah. All other biracials have their own name groups like Hoppas, Coloreds, Mestizos, even Blasians, right? Blasians, yeah, the Métis in Canada, exactly. In the Caribbean, why aren't us mulattoes allowed to have our own identity? Because they want to use you, position you to be a proxy to serve black people's interest. And I know there's some liberal mulattoes in Canada, some old guy who's active on Facebook. He has his Facebook group and all this stuff. And he's like one of these hardcore liberals, he doesn't like the idea of mulattoes having our own shit. Like, he wants to just use us to just have us just used to serve blacks. Like, and he's not the only one. You got mulattoes all over America, they're doing the same crap, where they don't even like the idea of us having our own group. They're against that. They want mulattoes to serve blacks. And the thing is, as well, like, you have this guy, like, they'll try to use terms like high yellow or something like that, or golden or something. They'll use those terms that are very vague to basically put you underneath blackness. That's their goal. So you don't separate, or I don't like the word separate, but so you don't distance yourself for security. Remember, you have to take the position that you are creating something independent. You are distancing yourself for security. It's a security situation. And you are entitled under the Constitution for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and for safety and security. That's your constitutional rights here in the United States. So you have to position your argument that I'm doing this. This is for my own security from them. They are the threat. Look at what you see on social media. Look what they're doing to Drake. Look at all the comments they make about white women and the biracial children. You have to distance yourself from them. They are a threat. They're dangerous. Okay, and then you can get into statistics with crime stats and all that stuff, and then you have a case. So I don't say separate. Because I'll still do business with anybody, but I'm saying we need to distance ourselves as a collective for our own protection and integrity. I feel like that's a solid position to take. Me personally, I don't know. You guys tell me otherwise. I saw a UK study that shows white women rated black males as more attractive than white men. Interesting. Yeah, and they have a whole baby mama, single motherhood phenomena. A lot of them want to act like Americans too. So, yeah, good for them. Let's see what the results are going to be like in the next 10 years. Their whole country is going to be overran by Pakistanis and Indians, which kind of already is. So good for them. They're on the right track. Well, the white women who do prefer white men do not like the Asian women, white men thing. Yeah. Religion definitely plays a role, because Islam cuts off the genitals of men and cuts off women's and have beef. Oh, I'm not going to read all that stuff. Yeah. Okay, let's see. We got mulatto activists. What are the parameters of being an activist? I'm just giving people an option. I'm just one guy. I don't have everything figured out. I think my quality of life is pretty good. It's funny because then people will kind of like try to clown me because they use their little hood kind of metric. Oh, you don't have the biracial experience because you ain't raised in the hood around black folks struggling. I'm like, you're damn right. I'm so happy. Barack Obama wasn't raised around you people like that struggling in the hood. Neither was Patrick Mahomes. I'm so happy. You're damn right. I don't want that on my worst enemy. I don't want them to be raised around you people getting picked on and beat up and struggling. I mean, that why? Why is that necessary? Like that doesn't make sense. But you have people who are mulatto like that trying to kind of G check you and be like, kind of pull rank on you. You don't have the real mulatto experience. You were raised in a nice neighborhood where you could go to school and learn, you know, and go to college and achieve goals in life. I'm sitting here smoking my weed, playing video games, struggling in the community. You ain't like, you don't have the mulatto experience. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's fine. Whatever. Not going to argue with you. The word colonizer is used on TikTok to describe a white person precisely. The man who coined that is Native American. Yeah. And it's sad the Native Americans were helping the community out with all that verbiage. And now look what the community is doing. They're trying to steal the identity of Native Americans. No good deed goes unpunished. Mulattoes should know that more than anybody out here. A lot of the whites have figured it out too. Yeah, there's one guy, what's his name? Scott Adams, the guy who did the whole Dilbert sketch, comic book sketch. He's one of these guys where he was a liberal kind of guy, right? Dilbert. A lot of these white liberals, man, they turned, man. Now they're going to the conservative party because they lived around blacks, they helped blacks their whole life, and they realize these blacks are, no good deed goes unpunished. Like it's crazy. Mulatto should know that more than anybody. Okay, they're gonna spit in your face. They're gonna bite that hand. You try to feed them something, they're gonna bite your hand. Look what they're doing to Drake. And I tell people the Drake treatment, that is at the macrocosm. You can only imagine at the individual levels, and we have the testimonies now from you, Val, from other people in the chat, men and women alike. We have these stories. I want to use my social media to get people to have their stories here, to share their stories so we can strengthen our case. I'm not here. I don't want us to continue to focus on another group, to hate that group or hate this group. We have to basically state our case and position ourselves to be our own independent entity. That's the goal. That's why it might sound very kind of confrontational at the moment, or, basically kind of rough at the moment, where you're picking on them and you're being mean to them. You don't talk about your white side. You only talk about them. Like it might sound like that at first because we have to spread awareness. We have to let people know, hey, you've been hoodwinked. You've been tricked and bamboozled and fooled. You've been put in a position of servitude where you're begging to try to fit in with that group when you already have numbers now. You can just create your own shit. Like it's going to take time. But I'm not forever on this social media. I'm not going to be complaining about this group or that group. I'm going to just focus on what my group has going on. But it is going to take time, to be honest with you. And it's going to be on my time when I say so. That's the thing. Oh, yeah. TikTok colonizer. Yeah. A white woman exposed that she got him pregnant. Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Cool. Okay. Let's see. We're almost 2 hours deep into this. Let me see the biracial perspective. Yeah, I got a couple other mulattoes who tune in as well, who are talking about like how they're raised in the hood, and they're like, you're right. I just find like some of the vocal ones. There's a couple guys, like incel guys, who are like, they're just jealous of me. Because these two incel guys, they've been content creators on YouTube longer than me, way longer than me, in the biracial kind of spaces per se. And they can't even grow a following, an audience. They can't connect with people. They don't understand the concept of social media, like to connect with people. And I feel like I try to do a good job of curating an audience where I do want to push away lower caliber people, but at the same time, I want to pull people in to let them know, look, I sympathize with your story. I get it. A lot of us have been there, but let's come to an agreement. I feel like I'm doing a good job. I see the right people over here that I want. But there's other content creators, like I said, who've been doing it longer than me, the incel guys, right? A couple of them who they're hating on me hard. They're like, you don't have the biracial experience, Mulatto Vanguard. You weren't raised in the hood struggling. And I'm like, I'm thank God every day. Like, I'm not from the hood. Fuck that. The biracial experience on average is not even growing up in the hood. That's not common or not average experience. Yeah. The thing is, I want people to have a better experience than me. The main thing is I'm passionate about this. Okay. Like I said, I'm not an activist. You can say I am, but I don't use that term for myself. I want to spread awareness, like the page Biracial Awareness. I like what he's doing. But why I'm passionate about this is because it's not because my experience is so good or so better or whatever. Everyone can learn from it. Well, what they can learn from my experience is don't waste your time trying to get the approval of African Americans. Don't feel sorry for them in the sense where don't use your light skin privilege, don't use your proximity to whiteness and the privilege that you have to help them out. Make sure they give you something in return. It's a fair exchange because it's not reciprocated. Mulattoes are being put in the servitude position to where they're trying to beg for acceptance. They're giving, trying to prove their blackness only to be later on to be discarded or pushed aside, as of what they're doing to Drake. I'm always going to bring it back to Drake because that's been the best case study thus far in 2024 of what a lot of us have witnessed at the micro level. Don't give them any freebies. That would be my number for, because like I said, in my 20s and my mid 20s, my pro-black phase and all this shit, like I did a lot. I helped, went to, parades, volunteered, did advocacy, even donated. I donated to Dr. Umar, did all that crap. I met Dr. Umar. But I'm saying to these other mulattoes, don't even waste your time, especially if you're younger than me. Don't waste your time. Do not waste your time dealing with them unless they're paying you, giving you something in return, period. You have to position yourself like that because they will wield influence over you and they will get you to do free labor and you will get nothing. And I'm trying not to sound bitter when I get up here and, Mulatto Vanguard, you sound bitter or you sound resentful. I just want these younger people to don't waste any time, man. Make sure they give you something. They pay you. Don't give them any free labor. They don't deserve it. And they owe you more than you owe them. And they need you more than you need them. This is what it is. Learn from that experience. And yeah. Interesting. I remember the very first race remark I got in 3rd grade. Dark-skinned black boy. He called me multicolored and all mixed up. And it sounded, he said all mixed up. Yeah, racist. Yeah. They still say that today as adults. You all mixed up. Right? That's one of their racist stereotypes they push. I'd rather be mixed up than be them. I mean, I don't give a damn. Whatever you call that situation, being proud to be a victim and pretending to be an Indian and all this other crap, I'm good. I'm curious though. I never asked this before. Whatever. He was only in 3rd grade and already racist and hateful and probably hated his dark skin. Yeah, a lot of them do. That's why they bleached their skin. Yeah. My only pet peeve is I never been to Florida. That weather actually suits me and just not the hurricanes and fires and guns though. My problem is with violence. Everyone's violent. Yeah, America's a very violent nation. Very violent nation. I tell men, or women as well, but a lot of the men that I consult with, basically just learn how to fight. Take some classes, man. Go do your shadow boxing run. Go train. Find a good gym. Make sure you have a firearm. Buy a firearm. Buy several. Get your ammunition. Get your prepper supplies. Your backup power generator. Get your water. Get your food. Get a food storage. So, yeah. But yeah, you got to learn how to fight. You're a man. No ifs, ands, or buts. There's no excuses. So America's a violent, highly competitive society. Okay. And it's a dog world. It's very cutthroat. And that's the thing. People hear the anger, animosity in my voice. I scare people off, which is a good thing. I don't want the punks to be over here. But I do have a lot of haters and trolls who want to kind of listen in to find they can get some dirt on me or something. It's like, look, I'm not gonna be fucking punked out here. Here's why I'm doing what I'm doing, because I see all the conspiracies they spread. They want to co-opt and steal our history from us. And like I said, and the other thing they want to do is kind of like bastardize the women. They want to bastardize mulatto women. So other races of men, even mulattoes, don't even want to deal with them. It's like they find out you got a black baby daddy. You got kids that don't even look like you. They don't share your image. They're like, fuck, I just rather just go get a Latina and start fresh. Like, why would I deal with you? Like, you've already shown your loyalty to that group. You've been tainted by Pookie. And see, this is the thing where it's like, yeah, it's crazy. That's why standard ground laws, yeah. Florida, Texas, California, and you people are bringing that to New York City because of the World Cup and the upcoming Olympics in DC. Nobody looks into it. Most gun violence is because of suicide, self-deletions. That's what they call it. All right. So I got into all your guys' comments. Shout out to you guys. You guys like the content. Please hit the like button. So let me see where I left off. Shared the graph. Okay, yeah. The Wikipedia, I went in over the 14th Amendment, right? Basically, the whole justification of why the Supreme Court sided with Loving and Mildred, Loving in Virginia case, is because it was a violation of their 14th Amendment, their equal protection under the law, and the violation of the due process clause. So they won that case. So across the board, every nation, or excuse me, every state, it's like a nation state, whatever, every state in the nation, in the union, basically decriminalized the interracial relationships. The anti-miscegenation laws, the marriage laws, were deemed unconstitutional. So they got rid of that in 1967. So the one-drop rule was abolished in 1967, but they did not reinstate the mulatto category. And the whole purpose to prevent people from getting married because they knew they were going to have children, what would the product be? Mulatto. They wanted to prevent more mulattoes. That was the whole purpose of Walter Pleckard and the Anglo-Saxon Club with the Racial Integrity Act of 1924. They removed mulatto from the census of 1930. They wanted to prevent mulattoes from being prominent and competitive in society. So they wanted to neutralize us and throw us in with the blacks so they can steal our history, as they're doing every day. Okay. Right? W.E.B. Du Bois, Frederick Douglass, Bob Marley, right? Thurgood Marshall, Charles Drew, the list of Barack Obama, Kamala Harris, right? You name it. Patrick Mahomes. Someone even mentioned too, I could do a video on it or whatever. Someone mentioned that the two kind of finalists of the NBA are two mulatto coaches. I think Jason Kidd, who definitely more so kind of European presenting, bald cat, super light skin. Jason Kidd, he's mulatto, and he's I forgot what team he's head coach on. I don't follow NBA. I only follow combat sports fighting, UFC, and then there's another coach for the other opposing team of the NBA, and he's a mulatto guy as well. So, and they're trying to position it as two black coaches for the NBA. You see how they're doing that? This is what they do to you mulattoes. Whenever you achieve something, like Patrick Mahomes, they're saying, oh, he's the first, he's a black quarterback. Right? Wait a second. He's got a white mom. He's a mulatto. They're doing that to Jason Kidd and some other head coach of the NBA. That's what they do. That's what they do. So your history is getting co-opted. Let me see what we got here. Okay. 14th Amendment, the Wikipedia language. Now, what I'm going to get into here is I'm going to use Wikipedia as example because we're going to contest this. Celtic Mulatto is already doing that. Shout out to Celtic Mulatto and Emily as well. Shout out to Emily. I'm kind of doing all this right now and kind of paying respect to her and all of you guys, my lovely audience as well. But she's also an audience member, and she's proudly identifies as Mulatto. So that will always be bonus points. Let me see. Sorry, guys, I kept sharing the same thing. All right, white people. Wikipedia, white people. Let's see this right here. White, often still referred to as Caucasian, white, is a racial classification of people generally used by those mostly European ancestry. It is also a skin color specifier, although the definition can vary depending on context, nationality, ethnicity, and point of view. The key thing I want to point out here, let me zoom it up. I apologize. I can see the text is a little small. Cool. This should be a lot better for you guys. And actually, Emily brought this to my point because I already kind of drafted some arguments that I was going to contest with Wikipedia based on their verbiage and how they're using these broad, definitions, which of course enforces the one drop rule against us. So when you talk to someone who has a white parent, a black parent, or they have two mulatto parents and they identify as mulatto, and you're trying to position these people to just check black, because the one drop rule, and you're looking at here, okay, we'll look at white. Racial classification of people generally used for those of mostly European ancestry. That's the key thing to focus on here. The definition of white people is clearly specified. Like there's no ambiguity, there's no vagueness. It's clearly specified what constitutes a white person. And then they say the skin color specifier, although the definition can vary, right, depending on context, nationality, ethnicity, point of view, political, etc., geography, environment, meaning, nationality. So, but they say right off the bat, the first sentence, of mostly European ancestry. Very significant. They're very strict. They're like, okay, this is what it is, right? But then let's get into when we look at the African American definition. And I believe I pointed it out on my other stream I did. But since you're all here listening right now, let's get right back into it. So African Americans, this is a big issue we see here, right? Not the people, not African American people, not the issue. I'm saying the issue is with Wikipedia and how they're defining these groups of people. African Americans, also known as Black Americans or Afro Americans, are an ethnic group consisting of Americans with partial or total ancestry from any Black racial groups of Africa. You see, with white people, it says mostly European ancestry. But the key thing here is when you look at the vagueness with Wikipedia, when they talk about African American, it specifically here says in the first sentence, partial or total. So partial African ancestry. So anybody can be an African. Isn't that the claim? We's all from Africa. We the mothers and fathers of civilization, right? Yeah. So like, you not like us, they not like us, right? So partial or total. See, the vagueness and the ambiguity there is a big problem. Because the way this definition is positioned, this can be used against mulattoes to weaponize the one drop rule. People will just point to Wikipedia as a source and say, hey, look, according to Wikipedia, if you got partial African ancestry, you consider Black. And people will literally look you in the eye and justify the one drop rule, which we already established was outlawed in 1967, unconstitutional. But people will still try to abide by it, and they'll use these type of sources that are supposedly credible, Wikipedia, but the vagueness here for African American, it says partial or total ancestry. But when you look at white people, as I just showed prior, it says mostly European ancestry. This is stuff you guys got to look into, because I know a lot of you guys are over on the entertainment channels being entertained by celebrity gossip and all the other ho shit, acting stupid with your baby daddies, living on welfare in your trailer park next to Walmart. I know a lot of you country bumpkins and you city slicksters, whatever the hell you are with your baby daddies and all this crap. You guys want to act stupid with your celebrity gossip bullshit and your scandals and drama and all this crap. Who is really pointing this out? these definitions that alter and can change throughout time. People talk about etymology. The definitions of words change throughout time, just like the blacks have done with the N word. It was a bad word, but now they like the word. They in all their songs. Well, that's what we're doing now with mulatto. We're saying it's a good word. It means mulatto means me, European African, just like white people have done with the word redneck, which has historically been a bad negative word. There's a lot of white people who are of that class who have honor in that word redneck. They like that word. I'm just bringing it to your guys' attention to point this out. And I will share again, going back to the one drop rule, which is outlawed in 1967. This is Loving's Day. One drop rule is legal principle, racial classification, prominent 20th century America. Said if you have a drop of black blood, you're considered black. The term they use is hypodescent. Okay. And then I want to point it out to here. All right. Before the rule was outlawed by the Supreme Court in the Loving versus Virginia decision of 1967, which we just covered. So for all the people telling you that the one drop rule, 500 years old, American history, no, it was outlawed in 1967. But the people who are upholding the one drop rule today, they benefit from it in some way. And you have to ask the question, why? What are they benefiting from? Well, because they want your free labor. They want you to fight for them. They want you to claim all your wins, right? Like these two mulatto basketball coaches, they want to claim as the first two black head coaches in NBA, and they're mulattoes, right? Or my vice president looks like me. Come to find out, her dad's a Jamaican mulatto, her mom's Indian. She's multiracial. She's not a black. I'm talking about Kamala Harris, right? So they want to. There's people who want to use this one drop rule to kind of claim all your wins, right? Remember Dr. Umar on my other channel? I did a stream where he's talking about he doesn't want mulattoes and multiracials to check multiracial. He wants us to just check black so that they can get more political value. See, it's all about politics. He wants you guys to just check black so that more money will go to black districts and they'll get more attention, right? Because they're losing that political influence. It's all going to Latinos and Asians and then multiracials now. And other groups like, LGBT, right? So other groups are getting their cut of the pie. And the slice of the pie that's getting more smaller is to the African American group, right? And that's because a lot of them are creating us. That's on them. I don't know what to tell them. Like, they're going out of their way to create us. And how the hell are you going to hate on us at the same time when you're literally going out your way to create us? Like, that's seems like a you problem. But the one drop rule is obsolete. We've already went over this on Loving Day back in 1967. That's what, 43 years ago, right? If my math is accurate, that the law was abolished. Okay. But people still want to uphold it. And they want to deny my 14th Amendment. They can attempt to, they can try, but a lot of people, they can't. They know there's no legal standing on it. So the result is savagery, or they'll do the whole defamation, slander. But then there's a lot of people, they'll result of savagery. I mean, I got people up in here talking about, why don't you come to my hood and meet me? I ain't gonna go to your hood. Are you gonna tap dance for me or what? You're gonna sing a song and rap for me, or what are you gonna do? You're gonna dance for me, boy? I ain't going to your hood. What the fuck? People actually out here like are tripping thinking that. And also I could share it exactly for European American as well. I could just briefly, before I kind of move on. I'm already 2 hours deep into this. Appreciate you guys being here. It's been kind of a long evening. It's hump day, Wednesday. European Americans, let's see, you guys can see that, are Americans of native European ancestry. This term includes both people who descend from the first European settlers in the area of the present-day United States and people who descend from more recent European arrivals. It's very specific, right? I said when I definition of white people on Wikipedia, it said mostly white or European ancestry. You look at European Americans, it's very specific. They're the people who came from, they have Americans with native European ancestry, or the ones who just came recent settlers, etc. There's no vagueness here, right? I just want to point that out because I'm going to contest Wikipedia and I'm pointing this out to them as well. I'm just sharing it with you guys first, where it's like, The only vagueness they have is with the African American group, where they say, oh, just partial ancestry. If you just have partial African ancestry, then you're an African American. No, not to my standards I set, and I'm not the only one out here, baby. There's a lot of other mulattoes who agree with me. And trust me, there's a lot of African Americans who agree as well, who have integrity and who want to preserve their group and their identity. You know, they're sick and tired of the colorism of all the mulattoes getting preferential treatment and Hollywood roles over them. Well, then they need to stop embracing the one drop rule. Because as long as they embrace the one drop rule, they're always going to have people like Zendaya and these others representing them, but they're always going to cry colorism. But yeah, 43 rules, 43 years, the one drop rule, which is mulatto history. It's not African American history. It's mulatto history, is the one drop rule. This is the critical thing I want to leave you guys with on this channel, on this live stream, Mulatto History channel, that the one drop rule is indeed mulatto history. It's our history. Own it, claim it. And if you still see remnants of the negative elements of that history, you got to contest it and challenge it. I'm doing my part with Wikipedia. I'm having this social media experimentation, broadcasting live to spread awareness to you guys. Okay. So you guys can, of course, do your part, talk to other people, share this video with people who you might find some value in this content. Share it with them. Let them know, hey, you've heard this guy has a channel. He's building a space for people who feel like they don't have a space. He's giving a voice to people who feel like they don't have a voice. Share this content with them. They might like it. You never know. And that's it, guys. I have nothing else really to share. What I'll do is I'll drop the link. I'm not going to be here long, but I will drop the link. If anybody does want to come up here and, you know, kind of challenge, contest anything, I'll give them a couple minutes, right? Give you guys a couple minutes. You guys want to share anything with me, you can go ahead and do that. Otherwise, I'm just going to call it a night myself because, yeah. Right, yeah. You guys got a couple minutes. Hit the link.